Good evening, members of the league. Welcome to 5 happy minutes, what I hope will be your 5 happiest minutes of the week. If your last name is Hemholt, your first name is Eric, this is probably as good as it's going to get. Sorry, Eric. Let's start the show out how we've been. Nice shot of the happy ending there. After this past week, things tightened up a bit in the league. Kind of anybody's guess where this baby's going to end up, but right now it's home, and I'm happy to keep it here. Let's see, the show is back. I believe I mentioned that before last weekend, that the show was going to be off until I won a game, and that would more than likely come at the expense of the Stinky Train, which it did. So I'm happy to say we're back. I'm 1-2. I'm feeling a little bold after the win. It was exciting, staying up until midnight and coming out victorious, which I wasn't too sure of partway through the first half there, but it was worth staying up. But I'm feeling kind of bold. I told Eric that earlier today, so I'm gonna come back a little bit here. I did on Facebook a bit already, but first off, I just wanted to give myself a pat on the back for picking up Barnage, tight end for Cleveland. Did that not because I thought he was a great player, but because the tight end position versus Oakland in weeks 1 and 2 scored a lot of points. And I thought, hey, let's give it a try. So I picked him up for $1 on the waiver wire. He scored me 20, 22 points. I forget what it was, but that was one of the keys to my victory in week 3 over Cleveland. Kind of funny how that works. Anyway, the second key was the trade with Cleveland, coincidentally enough, prior to week 2. And Mike tried to downplay that trade a little today when I was talking it up, telling me that I had one good week out of the trade. Really had 2 good weeks. So that trade led to Eric and Cleveland losing in week 2. And really that was a big key to the loss in week 3. To the strong baddie cheats and turned the victory for me. So Eric went from what would have been 3-0 to 1-2 thanks to that trade, and I went from 0-3 to 1-2. So that's like making up 3 games right there. I'd be 3 games out of first place and a lot of points behind, but I'm tied with him now, so I'm really happy about that. The other person that I happen to be tied with in my division is my guest. And there's Derek. Welcome to the show, Derek.
Hi.
Derek had a loss this week, unfortunately, but he's also 1-2 in the division. And we had talked about maybe doing something last week, right on the heels of our matchup. Time did not allow for a show last week, so I wanted to make sure to have you on this week. And I know that there's been a little bit of rumblings on Facebook already, so maybe I'll let you take it away and share the news that you wanted to share this evening.
As mostly everybody knows, there was a trade between myself and Doug Mostrom, the Midland Mastodons. I'm going to send him David Johnson and Devontae Parker plus my 2016 first round pick.
Oh.
And I am receiving Percy Harving, Doug Martin, and his 2016 and 2017 second round picks, and we are washing salaries.
Wow, that's a lot of pieces to a trade there.
Yeah, I mean, it does help Doug out tremendously for with Parker. I mean, I liked Parker when I drafted him. I was just, for this year, I'm trying, and the key word being trying, to at least do not try to be in the bottom of the barrel in the plate poll or bowl, however you want to word it. But man, it's been hard to sit on him and wait for him to see what's going to happen. But I understand, with I think Doug Martin's on a bye this week. No, he's not. I don't remember if he is or isn't. But or no, he's not. So, I mean, I get him for 1 year. So we'll see what helps me with run. It helps me in running back. But we'll see what happens. And then I also have another trade that I just completed before the Happy 5 Minutes began with the Chicago Bombers.
Oh man, trading with two of the
This
three Mostroms.
this went back and forth. I'm happy for this year. I'm a little nervous, but I am getting Dion Lewis for Vincent Jackson, and I get to decide at the end of the year what second round pick Mike gets. He either gets my 2016 or my 2017 second round pick. And we are washing salaries, of course, since Mike has no cap room.
He doesn't. Well, hopefully, for your sake, Mike is not selling high on Dion Lewis. He's obviously high now. Hopefully, that is not the best that he gets and he doesn't drop off. But so you will end up with 2 second-round picks in either 2016 or 17. Because you're going to give one of those. You picked up 2 from Doug, and you're going to turn around and give one of those to Mike.
Correct.
At the end of the year. Okay. Derek Newbert is watching. He must think you look like you're a pilot. You're ready for takeoff with your headset on. So, well, Doug, obviously, you could tell he was. Now, were you talking with Doug about making a move before he posted on Facebook earlier? He posted that he was about ready to move 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah, we talked today while I was on the road for work. I had a lot of projects, so we were kind of talking off and on. And then when I got home, we really kind of pinned it down. It went back and forth, and I obviously tried to give up a little less, but I like Martin. I mean, I know he's not nearly what he used to be, but I still like Parker. But I'm not a patient man.
Okay. Well, Derek Newbert actually chimed in. He says you two have had long talks about David Johnson. You even mentioned that you're going to hang on to him. Why the change of mind? Was it because Doug was willing to deal with you? Were you that interested that you were willing to move him, or did you have Dion Lewis in the back of your mind already?
Oh, no, I didn't. I mean, the Dion Lewis talks came up after the David Johnson trade. I don't know. I didn't. I mean, besides what Newberta starts every game, I mean, his bench. I mean, it's not really anybody worth trading for. But Doug wanted Davy Johnson for a backup in case something happens with Ellington, and I got some use out of him in weeks 1 and 2. So, I mean, his value was definitely there. But it obviously dropped in week 3. But I just figured I could get more out of him from Doug than I could get out of Newberta.
Fair enough. Well, we're just about to the 10-minute mark, so we'll be shutting down here in just a minute. But I couldn't go without mentioning that it just the weeks go by in fantasy football and you kind of have to forget about the previous week. You got to have amnesia and keep moving on. But I couldn't help but think in the back of my mind there was something special about your week 1 matchup with the Cleveland Steamers. And I looked back and there was less than less than 2 points separated you two. And that is the little thread that is keeping Eric from starting the season 0-3.
I could very easily be 3-0 right now. I mean, if I wanted to start Rivers, and something. I mean, it was just pinging me Rivers, because he was my workhorse last year, and I went with Manning, and man, I regret it because I just wanted to stick it to Eric. I mean, the first year I was in the league, this was like my first year in a dynasty league, so it was really all new to me, and poor team management. I would have knocked Eric out of the playoffs, but I couldn't pull through, and speaking of the short-term memory, I mean, this week, I mean, I was the lock of the week. I should have crushed Samuels, but it was. I mean, I'm not going to make excuses, but I mean, it was just poor team management. I work. I mean, I'm not going to blame it on work, but work's been picking up. I got less time to look at fantasy than I normally do, and it just bit me hard.
Yeah, that was yeah, I mean, I was looking at that thinking, you know, you were 2 points less than 2 points from a victory in week one.
I
You
mean,
know,
even if I would have
it's
put
how
in,
close it all hinges though, but I
yeah,
mean, you know, I mean, Eric could be 3-0 right now if he and I hadn't completed a trade just
oh,
over a week
right,
ago. Now he's 1-2. You know, if he loses, if you start a different quarterback in week one, and then you know, maybe he doesn't do the trade with me, he's 0-3. You know, I'm 0-3 otherwise, but now I'm you know, I feel good at 1-2, but how can I feel anything but? I started out 0-2, so I won my last game. I'm on a 1-game winning streak. So, and you know, I can't help but look, and you know, I mean, the league is tight now. I mean, maybe not in terms of projections and actual talent on the rosters, which is obviously very important, but this snapshot in time, based on the points that have been scored by the teams, you're looking at 1-3-0 team and 1-0-3 team, and everybody else is 2-1 and 1-2, and you know, that's pretty much how you're going to be. But you know, with the way the schedule works out, you really can't get any closer than that. And I thought that was this past week. I mean, you know, you only lost by less than 2 points or just over 2 points again this weekend, but that was a pretty low output, which I know all about that from week one and pretty much week two. So
yeah,
2 real low scoring games and then 4 real high scoring games, and those 4 all came down pretty much to last night for the most part, which
right,
made Monday Night Football exciting for some
yeah.
of us.
I got to go to bed early.
Right, exactly. And you know, I almost did. I actually said I was going to, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to go downstairs and watch. It'll be fun at least, and if it turns out not to be fun, I'll turn it off and go to bed. But I was up until midnight, which doesn't usually happen when I have to work the next morning. So,
Yeah.
any parting shots? Any more trades you're thinking of making? Anything you found out maybe from talking trades with these other guys?
I mean, Andy reached out again, but I'm just not interested in the players that he's putting to the table. So, and no, not really. I mean, except for Ferguson getting mad.
Well, you know, and I tried to get him on as a surprise guest, but to have a little Jerry Springer moment maybe, but didn't work out. So looks like Newbert has a parting shot here. He says, "So is off-season projections dumb to look at?" I think what he means to say, are off-season projections dumb to look at? Which reminds me, we need to do some sort of a spelling bee. No grammar, so I guess his grammar was off,
Yeah.
but his spelling was good. I don't think they're dumb to look at. It just gives us something to do. I mean, I don't like them either because most of the time I'm at the bottom half of the league. Well, definitely at the bottom half, usually the bottom quarter of the league. So, but you got to have something to look at, and if you don't have that to go on, you really have nothing. You just have to sit and wait. And as we know, Derek Newbert is an impatient man. He'd probably like to do next year's draft and auction here in the next 2 weeks. So, but well, anyway, Derek, thank you for coming on the show. I'm glad we finally were able to make it work.
Yep.
Sorry for your loss this past week, but hey, we're all 1-2, so it's kind of like starting the season fresh with week 4
right.
for the East Division.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, for those of you watching, thank you. Watching on demand, thank you. Don't forget, hopefully we'll be back next week. I'm not going to make any more bold predictions. Last week was good enough for me. I'm riding on a high now. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to fear the cheat.